G'day, welcome to Say It With Guitars. I'm your host, Pete Cornelius. Each episode I'll be digging deep and getting to hang with some of Australia's finest guitar pickers, songwriters, producers, collectors and makers. I look forward to bringing you these fun conversations and I hope you enjoy Say It With Guitars. Hey listeners, thanks again for joining us for another episode of Say It With Guitars, the podcast. Thanks to John Parsons for last week's episode. Hope you've all had a chance to check out John's guitars on the old Instagram. Some beautiful looking and sounding instruments there. Thanks, John. And today, very happy to bring you the conversation I had with my good friend Shannon Bourne. He's a monster guitar player, heck of a nice guy, and always good to hang out and chat about guitar-related things with Shannon. He's a very passionate and committed dude. He loves what he does, and you can tell through his music. Check out his albums, folks, and enjoy the chat with Shannon. Before we crack into today's show, I'd like to shout out to our sponsor, Mr. Billy Tarrant from Tarrant Guitars. Billy's an amazing luthier and he makes some real sweet instruments. I'm lucky enough for him to have built me a 00 size acoustic guitar, which I've dragged all around the country and it's sounding better than ever. So check out tarrantguitars.net.au, Tassie's one-stop custom workshop for custom-made guitars, all guitar repairs and services. Let's get into the show. All right, I'd like to welcome to today's episode of Say It With Guitars, Mr. Shannon Bourne. Good morning, Shannon.
Good morning, Pete. How are you, man?
I'm very well. Yeah, I'm just did the school drop. The kids are at school. I did my little guitar lesson I do on a Friday morning in town. And I'm now here having a chat with you and a cup of tea. So the morning's going great.
Well, that sounds pretty sweet, man. I'm looking at your guitars up the back there and I'm noticing that there's at least 3 empty racks. So your collection is complete. Oh, no, 4. There's 4 empty racks.
There's a few empty racks. The reasoning for that is not because I do need more guitars, but I have got them up in the studio and they're in cases. I've been busy rehearsing and getting shows on for next week. There's a cool program that the Festival of Voices are putting on called the Tasmanian Songbook. And there's about 8 or 10 guests, all singing songs of their own, either about Tasmania or were written here or have some significance, and probably doing a cover as well that include Tasmania somehow. So, we're going on the road next week and doing 3 shows in some beautiful sort of theatre style venues. So that's why there's empty racks.
Deluxe.
Gigs back, baby.
Yeah, aren't they ever?
How's things in your neck of the woods, Shannon? I can't see any guitars on your wall there, but there is some boxes. Is that all merch waiting to sell?
Oh, that's all Chris Wilson merch. I'm in the house, so I'm in the computer room, which is full of lots of CDs that need to move and bits and pieces. So
cool.
Yeah.
How are gigs and things for you, mate? You're staying active?
Actually, I've got a couple of beauties this weekend. It's the Leaps and Bounds Festival in Melbourne, and they're doing this. They've been trying to put on this event for the last 2 years, but because COVID, yes. It's been moved and rescheduled. So finally it's happening. So tomorrow afternoon, well into the evening, they're doing an event at the Abbotsford Convent called Fitzroyalty, which is a celebration of all the old 90s Fitzroy bands, Steve Purcell's Pearly Shells, Paul Williamson's Hammond Combo, a lot of those great bands. And I'm playing there with Checkerboard Lounge, doing a couple of sets, and on Sundays a celebration of a lot of the old Punters Club mob, and I'm playing with Sarah Carroll and Ben and George. We're going to do one of Sarah's songs, and we're going to do one of Chris's songs.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
I did notice.
Yeah.
I looked at the tube last night of some of your work, and a song popped up of Sarah's that must have just come out. Has it? Something about Haunted Highway. Is that what it's called?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
I saw your name under the credits.
We recorded that. Yeah, that's right. My guitar's in the throng there. Yeah, I used it when I was in America. I bought a 67 Country Gentleman in Louisiana, and that's what I used on that track, and it just came up fantastic. Yeah, great song, great film clip.
Yeah, I had a little chuckle once the boys started chucking some dust around, doing some dancing. Yeah,
I know, line dancing, it's great.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Should we talk about your trip to the States you went on recently? So, is that the one you're talking about? That the MBAS, you guys won the not you guys, the Checkerboard Lounge won the MBAS and went to Memphis. Is that what you're talking about? Where you bought that Gretsch?
That's right. Yeah. So I guess that was 2020. I think we were there. Yeah. Just before
the proverbial hit the fan.
Yeah. Just before the sneeze got about, and yeah. So I play in this band Checkerboard Lounge, and they're a bit of a Melbourne institution. I've been playing in the band for maybe 15 years now or something like that. But we've really ramped it up in like the last 7 years or something, but particularly in the last 3 or 4, it's been going great. Yeah, we went over to compete in the International Blues Challenge, which takes place in Memphis, Tennessee. We made it to the semi-finals, so we got through. We made the cut from 380 odd bands down to 24, and then I think they have 10 or 11 finalists. So I like to say, we came 12th.
Great
overall.
Yeah,
and just outside that bracket. But whilst we were there, we took the opportunity to do some recording now, and we were initially meant to do our recording at a studio in Texas run by an expat. His name's Dave Boyle. He's got a church somewhere outside of Austin, and he records there. And we were going to sort of make this trip down to Austin and do a recording. But at the start of the trip, we did this tour of Sun and just thought, oh, geez, it'd be great to record here too, and so
yeah,
it happened. We got some time, and we went in on a Monday night after all the comp had finished, and we slammed out something like 15 tracks. That's including like two second takes over about 4 hours. So we got we just went in and played our so.
And it really does sound like you guys are playing together as a cohesive unit. There's no tricks and bells and whistles. It just sounds like dudes in a room. Sounds great.
Yeah, and it really captures the the flightiness of the band, because at any point any one of us could throw a grenade at somebody, and you got to run and you got to find a new way to play the song. So that's part of the fun of that band, is that everyone's got their ears on, and I'm a real firm believer if you're listening, and if you're listening to everybody, you never run out of things to play.
Yeah,
there's things, you can jump off a snare hit, you can fall into the cracks of a Hammond organ line or something like that, and then bang, you turn the music inside and out.
Yeah. That's a good way to look at it too, is to really open up your receptors to whatever everyone's thrown down in the band, and that way really is a teamwork. It's not just like shoegazing and see you at the end. It's like let's all go through this together, and let's try and inspire each other, or let's just have a good time with it. And the energy of that band's really great. It's very exciting, and every time I see it, it's a different vibe, different sort of take on those classic songs, and really like it. So can you tell us a little bit about the sun thing? Did you guys?
Okay.
So I'm guessing when you flew, you pretty much flew with minimal stuff, because that's how people fly.
Yeah.
Was everything pretty much set up and mic'd up and ready to go from previous sessions? You guys just turned up and I know you use house amps, I'm presuming, and house kit and
so the room, the room, everything's in the room there. There's, as you would have been there, the guitars are all around the room, and there's, a pile of nice amps in the corner and drum kit at the end, and, an Ampeg B15 Portaflex sitting there, and you go, well, that's a bass sounds great through one of those damn things. So what we travelled with, I just took I've got a pretty nice, really lightweight, heavy-duty road case. So I just took a Telecaster and like a boost fuzz pedal, and that was just what I used for the comp, and just used whatever back line was there.
Yep.
And for the recording, there's an old Tweed Fender Deluxe there, and you go, well, I've always wanted to play through one of those, and just set that up, got it to the right volume, which wasn't – it had a lot more than I expected it to have, and it was nice because it didn't get into that splotchy zone as well. It stayed pretty clean, and I didn't do any fussing with the EQ once I'd kind of set the volume. I think I had the volume on about 3 or something, and the tone on about 6 or 7, and so when I'm using a Telecaster, that's what I'm using, and then I used one of those K Thin Twins.
Oh, yeah.
And I just plugged in, didn't touch any of the knobs, just that's that guitar through that amp with the same settings.
Great.
And I used an ES 135 that was there as well. So, and Tim used the Hammond that was there, and there's a few little tricks and things he likes to do with the Hammond, but he couldn't get in the back of it to heat it up. So we all really just had to work with what we had.
Yeah, that's great. And I think sometimes those limits on each side can really inspire you, sort of work within what you've got. And, I think it's a good way to handle it, instead of making a fuss and go, I can't work in these conditions. It's like, cool, all right, challenge, accepted, let's do it. And was there a real small amp you used? Because it sounds like one of the songs, it sounds like you're using like a tiny little champ or something even smaller, like a little Bronco or something. I don't know.
I reckon that would be on Bottle Your Love, I think, that song. Yeah, that's the K Thin Twin, so it's out of phase.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So it's got that honky small out of phase sound, but it's quite literally it's the same amp. It was all the Deluxe,
Great.
skip. If I could bottle your love, you know my feet would never slip. If I could bottle your love.
Yeah, I recently picked up a deluxe. It's just a clone, like a kit, but I'm having so much fun with it. God, it's just such a diverse amp for, one channel really, and a tone knob.
Yeah.
And you jump channels, or you just plug into one channel, and the other volume knob actually interacts with the channel that you're using, even though it's not plugged in sometimes. Like stuff like that, just so cool.
Yeah, just so many little anomalies with those amps. And it kind of, COVID's been great for sort of sitting down with the gear you have and going, or like I've gone like right into the guitars I have and pick versus fingers, and then going through strings and, just trying to extract as much as I can between the instrument and the amp before I even think of affecting it,
Yeah, keeping it pure and simple and nothing to hinder the emotion or the channel of thought you might be into at the time.
Mm.
Nice. So
that's right.
what sort of guitars have you been into lately, mate? Have you picked any? You probably haven't picked any up lately, have you? Any newbies, or have you?
Well, there's always stuff on the boil. I'm picking up an amp next week. I sourced out like a late 50s, early 60s Ampeg M15, which is like a 20-25 watt amp with a JBL 130F 15-inch speaker in it.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to that. What have I been playing? I bought it's a 55 Gretsch Electromatic that a friend was selling, and somebody put a TK Smith pickup in at the bridge, so it's not 100% stock, but it turns it into a much more versatile guitar. I've been really loving using that and working with flat wounds on that, and it's just a different guts, and my hands. It's kind of like playing an acoustic in terms of its physicality, because you got to really lay into it to get what you need to get out of it, as opposed to my 335 is a hammer of the gods, and I can just touch a note and it'll do something fantastic. But this Gretsch, I've kind of got to work with it, and as you know, Gretches aren't big for sustain, so you've got to keep moving on them,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful looking thing. I have seen you post a few videos and photos of that particular guitar, and it looks like quite an oversized body too, compared to what they ended up sort of doing their mass production in the 60s. And to put flat wounds on that, it's even more spongy. So you'd be like, playing it totally in a different mind space.
Yeah, totally. Just working, just working hard at it to get the best I can out of it. That's a lot of it. There's a music shop here, and I put a guitar in for a setup recently, and it's one of those really great Robert Cray Strats with the hard tail.
Yeah.
And which I don't care what anyone says. It's not like a Strat with a trem or without a trem. It's its own beast,
Sure.
I reckon everything's fatter, and it's funny playing some Hendrix bits and not having a whammy bar there, so you have to really rely on your hands and other things to pull, otherworldly sounds.
Yeah.
But I got it set up, and the guy was like, "Oh, I'll set the action up higher for you," and he did, and it's just like, this just isn't high enough. It's just so got to get the strings up, because it is fun to get under the strings and work them. I don't trust a guitar if it's too easy to play, and I don't like the way I play if it's too easy to play, because I'll just play more.
Yes. Absolutely. That's very wise words. I wholeheartedly agree with you there. I think it needs to be a bit of a fight back. You some sort of relationship that you can sort of have with your instrument, instead of it being too easy. And like you said, it's it's quite an invitation to play far too much if it's too easy. So yeah, a bit of a struggle's good. I like that idea.
Yeah.
I've been experimenting with strings as well. There's a gauge I noticed Ernie Ball brought out. I can't think what they're called. Maybe they're called like a beefy slinky or no, not beefy. They're called something else. It's like 11 to maybe 54 or something like that. So the wound 3 are actually quite heavy, and then the plain 3 are just normal. And that feels great on a Gibson scale. I've been really enjoying that.
Yeah. I always have always gone for, at least an 11 on a Gibson. 11 to 54 is such a great gauge on a Gibson that just gives you the right amount of tension, fight back, and I was trying to think about other things. I've got like an MJT Esquire that I've got 11 to 56 on that, and it's amazing because you just get all that acoustic guitar bounce and thwack on those low strings. Just turns them into rhythm instruments, they're just fantastic.
I noticed you got that little Gibson combo, those sort of mid-90s. Are they like a Trace Elliott style amp, those Gibson ones?
Yeah, so Trace Elliott were building them, and then Gibson bought the company and sort of absorbed it and just, turn them from green to brown and the metal on the speaker thing. And I've used that at a couple of gigs now, and with what I love about it is the stereo effects loop. Putting a Strymon Deco in the effects loop and just having that little bit of a slight lag between speakers and stuff. It just makes it big and three-dimensional, and you can run it either parallel or in series. So, parallel is just like making a little siding and having your effect up there and mixing it in. It runs beside the sound, as opposed to when you're running it in series, it places it between the power amp and the preamp, so it's part of the circuit. So I've kind of been digging running it in parallel, just alongside and blending it in, just to give it the right amount of warmth and stuff. That because it's an EL84 amp, it can get a bit spiky on the top end. So having the deco there, just around it ever so slightly on the top there, is really nice.
Yeah, that's cool little tricks you've got going on there. And I guess those sort of things come from just experimentation and I guess just time and years of devoting yourself to tone. And I've always been a big fan of your tone, regardless of what instrument you're playing, because you do play a lot of different guitars. It's like when I think of Shannon Bourne, I don't think of a Strat or a Tele or a Gretsch. I just think of appropriateness, things that are, or even inappropriateness, like things that are obnoxious on purpose. Things that make you sort of squirm a little bit. So it's always a joy to hear what you're up to tonally with amps and things. And yeah, those decos are a good bit of kit. They don't. They do a bit. There's a bit in there once you start digging around with them, but I kind of like using one side as a tape delay, like a slapbacky sort of double tracky thing, and then the other side is like a bit of a boost or like you said, just taking the top end off things on a spiky sort of amp, or even in front of a big clean, or on the end of a bright sort of fuzz, sort of takes a lot of that top end off as well, which is a nice little trick.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really sweet. Yeah, it just sweetens things ever so slightly. I also like to put it like for some of my videos I do where I'm doing maybe like acoustic things. I'm using like a desk. I'll just put it in a stereo effects loop and just use it on the mix, and so you get that so-called tape flavour across the mix, which is a cool little thing. And But, you know, you'll be able to pick one up pretty cheap now because all the version 2s have just come out. So all the Strymon version 1 stuff will be going out at crazy prices.
Ah, okay. I have noticed a few on the market these days, and that would be why.
Mm-hmm. That's right, mate. You know, these worship guitarists, they need to stay updated in the house.
Yep. Got to keep the tone updated.
That's right. Church tone.
There's a Strymon distributor who lives up the road in St Helens. So it's a dangerous relationship having him up there. He's always happy to lend me the new greatest thing.
You use that stuff really well, though. Like I remember when I came down to Tasmania and we did that little run years ago.
Yeah.
I was barking mad at that point. But yeah, you were using all that strumming stuff really well, like all that Lex work and all the interesting. It's like, yeah, I can play guitar, but I just want to listen to you play guitar because I just get to hear me play guitar all the time.
Yeah, but I was the same. I just wanted to hear you play guitar, so we're probably like not playing much at all, just waiting for each other to say
Someone
something.
play something.
Yeah, come on, drum solo.
Yeah. Go, Bo.
Go, Bo. Shall we have a little chat about that? Let's talk about your last trip down. Well, actually, that might not have been your last trip, but that was the trip that you hung out with us and we got to play the Adventure Bay Blues Festival down in Bruny, and we were lucky enough to have you play with our band, our trio. So we were sort of learning your songs, playing behind you and interacting and having a fat time, and we did some shows around the state, which is bloody great.
Yeah.
Always fun doing that kind of thing, interacting and having a fresh approach, especially to a trio that we work in all the time. It's always nice to have a different little bit of spice on top to sort of shake us out of our comfort a bit. So, yeah, I don't know, you got anything you want to add to that little Tassie trip you came down?
Oh, man, I just loved it. You know, I just had a great time, and it was just really great getting to know yourself and your band on a deeper level, because we'd always, you know, kind of seen each other checking in or passing by at festivals, or to actually sort of get to spend some real quality time in car trips and all that stuff. Is you know, I couldn't remember the last time I had as much fun on a little trip as I had with you guys, because it was just, God, you know, like touring is hard enough without, you know, trying to make it hard. So just the fact that touring can be joyous and with a bunch of guys who are all of a like mind and really sensitive, sensible guys as well, which is different. You know, I've toured with all sorts of personalities and, sometimes touring was harder than it should have been. So
yeah,
it's always a breath of fresh air when I get those new experiences and just go, you know what? Yeah, touring's ace. It can just be great with the right people. It really matters.
Yeah, it really goes to show, hey, how much mingling aspect plays a part of the whole experience, because, you know, you spend so little time on stage where you actually really, the bulk of the time is just hanging out and getting to know other people. And if that time's not enjoyable, or if it's a painful, you know, experience and you just can't wait to play, it does make you wonder, especially if you're away from home. It's like, oh, what am I doing? You know, why am I doing this? So yeah, it's always gratifying and good for the mind and soul to make it fun and to go home feeling like you've filled your cup up in more than one way. So yeah.
Yeah. So that was my experience, and just getting to see a bit more of the state and just having laughs and, you know, those just jokes that will that still manage to get a laugh.
Yeah.
Between the three of us. So, you know.
Even the dog's laughing.
But I remember when we were doing that gig down in St Helens, and I think it was like, I remember looking online and seeing that like Danny Kerwin had just passed away or something that night, and so I was kind of thinking about that. But we went out on stage, and it was like 5 degrees.
It was middle of winter, yeah. It was so cold.
Yeah. And I remember my Octavia sounded like shit because it was germanium and, everything was cold and it's like, oh, my God, that thing just sounds the worst. To take it out of the chain and, God.
And I think my amp was playing up too. Something was going on with that Vibra King you were borrowing too. I know that wasn't quite up to its 100% either. That was kind of, I think that was feeling the cold. So, but that's what makes that sort of shit fun, hey? Like you're just battling with what you've got dealt with and the show goes on.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah,
all huddling around the back of the amp. Yeah.
Trying to get some warmth off the tubes.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to think back when, mate, I first heard about your guitar playing. It must have been from the Republic Bar. I used to play at the Republic Bar in Hobart maybe, once every 3 weeks or 4 weeks when I was 15, sort of 16, pretty young. Got a good relationship with the bar down there and all the staff and all the clientele used to come to our gigs. And I think you'd visited with Chris in the Spider-Man trio. And I had everyone going, oh, my God, this guitar player that plays with Chris is insane. Like, you need to check him out. So I didn't get to meet you on that sort of level for a while. I think it must have been one of the festivals, maybe Narooma or somewhere we've got to hang out initially. And then, God, man, Narooma was such a hoot when you think back about the interactions and the people that we got to see and got to meet, and it was such a trip, that festival. And I vividly remember
there wasn't any...
you telling me that I needed to buy a Gretsch. I don't think I had a Gretsch at that time. And I didn't have a choice. I had to buy a Gretsch, and I did.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And was I right?
Look on the wall.
Yeah.
Where is it? There it is.
Yeah, that was the thing about the Narooma Festival was it wasn't like a star trip, like everybody shared the same sort of green room and people were accessible, or they were as accessible as they wanted to be.
Yeah.
But just being able to sort of walk around and see, fantastic performers and watch stuff side stage, it didn't have any, it wasn't up itself, that festival. It was really nice vibe. And yeah, I guess I remember the first time I heard about your playing was through Chris Thompson.
Oh, sure. Yep.
Right. So I was going in to record the Spider-Man album with Chris and, we'd set up or whatever, and he was just talking about this amazing young guitar player from Tasmania that he wanted to make a doco about and that he was, well into. And, he sort of was dropping all this stuff and I was just like, well, I wonder who this guy is,
Who's this schmuck?
Wow. And so, so we started going down to Tasmania, and those Republic Bar gigs were amongst a handful of like really amazing, like magical things would happen at that venue. And just the memories of being on that stage in the trio, just drums, guitar and harmonica, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I'd come from playing in bands that had bass players, and I was always sort of, for want of a better term, the stunt guitarist. And so to sort of be forced to dig in hard on rhythm and sort of learn how to perpetuate movement in the crowd through the way I was driving a guitar and an amp, and then the way that would work between myself and the drummer, because Chris was Chris Wilson, that's who we're talking about in here, just so if I say Chris, that's who I mean. He was that was always one of his favourite lineups, was just drums and guitar bands. And because the Rolling Stones is really Keith and Charlie. And so that's what he was doing, was just for a year and a half as a band, we played just drums, guitar and harmonica was sort of ornamental, that was kind of the lead instrument. So we would learning how to make a band gel and click in that way before he even thought about bringing a bass player into the band. So, you know, it was real hard yard stuff, but it was fantastic because I just had to come up with a new way of playing, and it was like, how do I keep the bass line going and keep the groove and stuff, but sort of play lead lines and then, you know, and so I sort of worked out this way of playing, and it, you know, it's a very physical way of playing, and it just it would always hurt. But so when we went down to those Tasmania gigs, just memories of the doors being closed and the windows steaming up and Chris just prowling and us just, you know, him just throwing stuff out there and just coming up with riffs and things on the spot, because like that's, you know, I reckon that's, for me personally, that like that's where the life is, that's where the living is. It is out on the edge, and it is when you have a band that can go with you or you go with a band, that's as alive as music can get, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the addicting element, you know.
And especially if you're at the centre of that, you know, if you're playing the melody and you're playing the rhythm, and there's no one to coordinate with. Like if Chris is not playing harmonica at the time, you could take it anywhere. Like if there's no limits with that at all. Like it's just a matter of Dave Foley just going, all right, cool, I'm going to keep this groove going, and Bourne's is just going to fly around and take us on a trip, and Chris is just going to bring it back down, and we're going to have a fat night. So, it's a bloody great way to not only get your chops in order, but your because those gigs would have went for 2-3 hours, like long gigs, and you know, to play that kind of guitar for 2 to 3 hours that's a bit of work.
It hurts.
It hurts. So that's a wicked way to really, you know, get into a style and just get your head around different sense of the instrument. So that's would have been great. So how old were you when you reckon you first started playing with the Spider-Man? Or was projects with Chris before that? You're 20.
So I was like 20 years old, and we just started playing as a duo at the Rob Roy Hotel in like Carlton there, and so we'd play every Tuesday night and just work up a repertoire. And then after a month and a half or something like that, he pulled Dave in to play some drums, and so you know, bring down a snare and a bass drum and all that, and that was how we kind of worked that up. And it was, you know, sort of looking back on it, it seems sort of amazing and magical, and it you know, it means, I think at the time I was just sort of head down, just working, trying to make it all work. So I didn't really have time to think about it too much. I didn't really have time to think about it at all. It was going to work, you know. That's what it was. And great things happened, and not great things happened, but that's, you know, back in those days, you know, people didn't have a phone with a camera in your pocket and filming every fucking waking moment of your life.
Yeah. That was probably more of an encouragement to branch out and to try things as well. Like I know that, well, it doesn't affect me. I don't really care about that at the moment, but I'm sure there would be some young up-and-coming groups that are just so conscious of everything being filmed. Every living, breathing moment of your creative life is being, you know, captured, and it's probably going to be put on public domain, and therefore you can be judged on every little thing you do. Like it's probably not an ideal way to really get your shit together.
You're right. You are 100% right. It's like, you know, you should be able to write some new songs and just go out and test them and see how you feel about it. You know, everyone wants to, you know, and there's also part of me is grateful for that element too, because there are great moments in gigs that have been captured by in those elements. As well. So, you know, it's sort of, you got to take what you can, really, I guess, and when someone passes away, like Chris passing away, you know, those moments that people capture become really precious.
Yep.
So, you know.
Yeah. And I think it's just a matter of being okay with yourself and with what you've done and just treating it as like that was how it went down, that was it. Let's make the next one twice as good, or just becoming okay with it instead of being too harsh and criticising yourself for having a go. So
yeah, and you know you work yourself to a point where you get so strong within yourself. You know what you're going to bring to a show. You know you're going to be serious about it. So I know I'm sort of talking about Chris a little bit here, but you know one of the most important things, really, when you boil it down, is that you should finish every show and get in your car and drive home and just know that you gave everything you could give to that situation and play the best you could play. That's as much as you can really expect, is that you did a great job for yourself and you can hold your head up. And that's the real basic part of it. You know, people get wrapped up in all the shit that surrounds it, but, you know, good musicians and good frontmen and women and people, if the idea was to have a great time together as a band and all that stuff, and you all had a great time and people had a great time, well, that's great. You achieved your objective as a player. I like to know that I didn't leave anything in the tank, and it's you know it's all gone. You know, like imagine half-assing a gig and then that's your last show that you play. You know, like why?
Yeah. How do you get to that zone? Do you have a particular like stern words to yourself before a gig, or have you kind of gotten to that point now where once you put a strap on over your shoulders, you're in that zone, or like is there a particular way that you warm up or you get yourself, like I find that driving really helps. I know that especially with our busy lives, you know, me here with the kids and, you know, just the house and all these sort of domestic things that can occupy so much of your brain and your time. If I do a show down the road and I haven't had half an hour or an hour in the car to just sort of like prepare, like I'm not thinking about the songs. I'm not thinking about. I'm just like, you know, maybe going, oh, I can, you know, plug this in and I can stomp on that pedal and I can sing this song tonight maybe because I haven't sung it for a while. Like, what's, you know, do you do that in the car a bit as well, or do you like have a thing at the venue you like to get there with, or what's your pre-gig thing?
Yeah, what's my pre-gig thing? Well, I like to be as sorted as possible gear-wise, just getting some time to sit down and put together the right pedal board and take the right amp and all that sort of stuff. And, yep, like you, the drive is meditation. It's such an important part of the whole trip. And the driving to the gig is a very different energy to the drive home.
Yeah.
And in terms of getting in the zone, I just know I care enough to sort of be slightly doubt myself enough to keep pushing, you know. Yeah. So, but like you, the driving is such an important aspect of it, and the drive home is just such a satisfying thing. And you can do. I'll have a period of silence, and then I'll put some music on, and then you get into sort of these kind of magical hours where, like, I just have real distinct memories of being on the road driving at certain times of night, and it's like when a certain song comes in and it's like the right time of night, everything's right, and it's just like time stops for that. Like I remember doing a drive home from Bendigo after a gig at the the Gold Dust Lounge, and I think it hit about 2:00 in the morning, and I had this compilation of stuff, really interesting stuff on this CD, and then it hit into Love in Vain, Robert Johnson.
Oh yeah, right.
And it was just after 2:00 in the morning, and that came on, and it was just like everything went into slow motion. And
fantastic.
I just felt like I was a part of something bigger than me, you know. And that's the magic of the best music, is that it just has that ability to take you out of yourself, you know. And
because I'm sure if you heard that song in another context, like, it just wouldn't have the same effect. But at that particular moment in time, you were accepting it, you were willing, like, it just bang, it was the right thing you needed at that particular time. It just, it's such an amazing tool, or the way that we accept music at certain times. It's such a profound effect on us, and and that's what I love about it. Like it. And I'm sure if there were other people in the car too, it wouldn't have affected them at all. Maybe it would have been like, oh yeah, here's this Robert Johnson tune. Whereas you were just like, here it is. This is just what I need. And yeah, do you think that's a practiced art though? Do you think that what you're talking about, the driving, like the mental kind of relaxed state that you're putting yourself in the car, just say, I lived in the middle of Brunswick and I was going down to, I don't know, what's a venue there these days? You're going to the Rainbow somewhere.
Brunswick.
Or the Labour in Vain, or you're just doing like one of these little shows, and you haven't got that time or capacity to chill before in transit, you know, like, do you think that's a practiced art, like living out of the city a bit and sort of hopping in a car, and that's like part of your lifestyle choice?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, you know, musicians within reason can live anywhere, because they will go anywhere to travel to work, you know. And a drive across town, I'm more likely to listen to talkback radio than go in deep on some music. You know, it's just the right thing at the right time, and or nothing at all, you know. Very rarely listen to music that sort of G's me up, because I'm usually so nervous that, you know, there's enough going on for my brain. You know, did I post the gig on Facebook? Did I push it enough? Yeah. You know, all that shit that you have to worry about. Then really, you can't make anyone do anything. You can't make people come to your gigs.
No.
You just do your gigs, and what people do with their lives is their business, whether they want to come out or not, you know.
Yeah. How do you go with all that? Have you ever had a manager or a publicist or anyone like that sort of on your side helping out, or has it always been a solo endeavour?
Some venues have in-house people that will sort of give it a push, and I'll give it a push within reason, because there's also part of you that's going, oh God, I'm just going to get up in people's faces, and, you know, there's a million other things to go and see and all of that kind of stuff. But, you know, I know that I'm good at what I do, and there's always a core of supporters that will come and hear what I have to do. and what I do is getting wider. It's broadening because I can't stay still in one place, you know. And in terms of having a manager and all that sort of, no, I haven't had a manager. I've just sort of kept going from gig to gig, and you know, I've got a big loyalty streak in me as well. So I'm playing with someone I really love and that's shown belief in me and faith in me, and I'll give it back, you know.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I remember somebody sat with me in a band room. They said, "Oh, well, you've done all right for yourself, haven't you, mate?" And I just said, "Do you think I planned any of this? I didn't plan any of this. This isn't like, you know, this isn't like a fucking business decision I made.
Yeah.
You know, I play music, I play guitar, and I've gravitated and gone and seen the people I love that were really have something vital to offer the community and people. And, you know, so I've just been driven by that stuff. It's never been driven by who's popular, you know, because it's so fucking vacuous and thin and bullshit.
Yeah.
Like some people you can see they've got their fucking marketing down before they've even got their music down. And you can just hear it, you know, like, oh, they've got the font and the look and it looks like this, and it's like, oh, I've got to go see this guy. And you hear it and you go, what?
Yeah.
What was that?
Where's the substance? Where's the
You know,
actual honesty and the passion? It's
that's
in the
right.
font.
Because at the fucking end of the day, it is about the music, and it's what you have to offer, and it's what you give people, you know.
Yeah.
People should walk into a gig and then walk out of it feeling different, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. True words. Another question or two. Don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you're playing anywhere tonight. Any gigs tonight, Shannon?
Not this evening, but I've got the Leaps and Bounds Festival on the weekend. So tomorrow I'm playing 2 sets with Checkerboard Lounge down at the Abbotsford Convent, which will be heaps of fun. And then I'm playing with Sarah and the boys on Sunday, which will be a whole bunch of different type of fun. And I think I've got a quiet week coming up, but, you know, then we're sort of getting into the end of August, and, you know, little blues festivals are coming up, and it's actually been really great. Checkerboard Lounge is kind of stepping up into those festival realms, because we've always been a bit of a underground Melbourne institution, but have just sort of, that's what it's been. But now we're sort of getting festivals, and it's sort of unlocked this whole other side of the band that we really didn't, I think between us we knew existed, but we didn't know what that looked like. And so at festivals, Carl is just, you know, he's just like this fucking flame in the middle of the stage, and we're all just kind of like, you know, moths hanging around, and he's just pushing this energy out, you know. Yeah.
He's definitely got a great,
it's amazing,
contagious energy, that's for sure. So was that
he sure does.
festival scene, was that a purposeful move within the band? Did you guys go, well, we really need to start branching out further with this outfit because it's so well liked, or was it just a natural kind of like, did you have guys approaching you and saying, hey, come here, come to our festival?
It's a bit of both, you know. It's having some new product that sounds fantastic, and we've had Cheer Squad Records sort of on board pushing the vinyl out there, and so they've got a whole in-house sort of publicity thing going on.
Great.
And so that's really helped, and you just feel like, you know, you get one festival and then someone sees you and they go, oh, you're great, I know so-and-so that works at this festival. So it is that word of mouth thing between Tim and myself and Carl and Zoe, who's the new bass player. You know, we know enough people and have played enough festivals to go, hey, why don't we have a shot at this one?
Yeah.
And you just email it through to Carl, and he's fantastic with admin stuff. You know, it shits him, but he's good at it, you know. And so, hey, why don't we look at this festival? And just, you know, he just sends out the expressions of interest, and stuff starts coming back. And like, we played up at the Broad Beach Blues Festival about a month and a half ago, and some guy walked up to us and he said, "I can get you 3 or 4 gigs in South Australia. Would you want to come over?" It's like, fucking totally. We've never been over there.
Yeah.
We want to go there.
Yeah.
Whole new sort of market. So that's the thing, is we're just a proven live act. You just know you're going to get something great. And really, quite simply, it is really just about the music. It's nothing. We're not presenting a false front. It's, we come dressed as we are, and we may write a set list now, which has never been what we've done, but you start a song and whatever happens in the middle of that to the end, we really don't know what's going to happen. And that's the best way to approach this band, because we've tried to plan it out and go, why did that gig work really well? And then the next gig is shit because you've thought about it too much. So we just start at the start and I'll see you at the end,
Yeah, it definitely works with that outfit, that sort of rough guideline of the material and arrangements, and just having the freedom to explore or the courage or the support for other members to take it somewhere and finish on the same accent hopefully, and do it all again the next show. So that's really cool.
I've got a bunch of recording coming up with I'm going to go and do a day at Jeff Lang's place in a few weeks. So that's just for me. Mm-hmm. But he's the one guy I just trust, because it's like having an extra brain and an extra set of hands.
Yeah.
It's amazing to sit there with somebody like that, and he can just hear those other possibilities and things. Sometimes it feels like, two heads sharing brains and then hands, and then you'll go that way, and then I just trust him implicitly with the creative process and the ability to hear where something can go, and also give me sometimes the courage to go harder down into something if I am not quite right, not quite sure, It's
definitely great to have someone like that who isn't emotionally or creatively attached to the piece or to the song, who has a fresh perspective, and especially with an opinion that you wholeheartedly trust and, put your time and energy into. Yeah, such a great person to work with, especially if he's just down the road a piece and, you guys get along in a good way. So, yeah, I'd love that. It's a bit of a smaller pool of folks down here. I know that there are definitely some great creatives down here, and I need to find some more people to mingle with, because there's nothing quite like having that extra voice or that extra opinion or just someone's advice, or I don't know, just a clean perspective that's not attached to the song. Because when you write a song, there's so much more than just the notes. It's all the emotion and the all the stuff that happens behind the song itself. So yeah, that's cool. So is that potentially another solo record, do you think, or you just one song at a time?
I'm just sort of going to do it a day at a time at the moment. I've got a handful of nice acoustic guitars that I know I'm interested in him getting some microphones in front of and hearing that. And so there's that, but there's the electric stuff too. So I've sort of got 3 ideas in my mind of stuff I want to have a shot at in the next year and a half. I'll give it a year and a half and start running at some things. But, I just need to make a start because it takes me a lot to sort of get to that point of feeling brave enough to do it,
And I think having a space somewhere else too and an extra person to schedule is a really good incentive and a good reason to do it, because far out, I know that I procrastinate so much when it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this next record. I'm going to do it. And then it's just like a year goes past. It's like, oh shit, I haven't done anything. So, that's a good way to get it happening.
We can all have the recording gear and, I've got a nice interface and I've got some nice microphones and things, and that helps. Like if I'm doing a session for somebody else at home, I'll do that and it's great. I really enjoy doing that. But when it comes to sitting down and going, okay, I'm going to record my own stuff, it's a pain in the ass. I find it easier to go to somebody else's house, get into a fresh space, like you're saying, and just have someone push record and do some finessing,
Yeah, massage it into a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
So have you been doing a little bit of home recording for like other people? Like you're getting files come in your way and you sort of play on a track and ship it back?
Yep. Yeah, I did. I did a track for Frank Sultana. About maybe a year ago, maybe. And my mate Mitch Cairns, who produced the Russell Morris Blues trilogy stuff, he and I we continue to work together on things, and he'll fly me through some tracks, and I'll just go, I'll get there, I'll get to it, and it is fun, grabbing a little amplifier and a couple of microphones and just the right guitar and just making it sound the way you want, the way you hear it. There was this track I'd played some guitar on, and I was just like, holy shit, that sounds like, Blues Breakers Clapton, but I'm playing through a little, 6-watt Alamo amp with a 335 and, a little bit of magic in the preamp and stuff like that. But I just heard it and I went, and that sounds like, that sounds proper, that's great,
Yeah. That's inspiring too. Once you've got that tone at your fingertips and the chain of events that happened, you can recreate that, and then you're inspired to play a particular way. And I think it's such a great skill to have, is to be able to do that on the fly or at any given moment, especially in your home comfort. Such a good investment. I reckon it's a good few bits of kit.
Yeah.
Definitely a good way to make another stream of income or just for the education, just for getting your own shit together, like learning how things work. And that way you can get to a studio perhaps and you go, okay, I need this mic, I need it to go here. And, you've got a bit more of an idea as opposed to just putting your tone and all of your hard work into the engineer's hands who might not care or might not have the same angle.
Yeah, I wonder how many albums have been just like destroyed by an engineer that didn't really quite know how to capture somebody's sound and what they're about. Thank Christ the quality of plugins and things like, we're spoilt for choice, and it's amazing, but it's not necessarily good for music either, because I hate having to choose. Like, the idea for the song is gone by the time I've gone through my 5th preamp trying to find the right sound, So pick one, works, do it.
Maybe fluff around with it later. Once you've captured the essence of what you wanted to do, then go back and if you have the time and energy to do that, and then go, okay, next time I'm going to do that. I'm going to start with the one that I ended up with perhaps. But such a rabbit hole.
You got to get the fire down. You need to capture that. You need to capture the spark, because when it goes, it's gone. You walk away, and you need to come back another day. I've taken So every time I pick a guitar up now, like I put a video out on my Instagram and my Facebook page, like one of my little guitar sound journey things. And I've just taken to every time I set up like that, it's like, I'm going to capture it. It just needs to be captured because I know I'm going to capture something. It's not going to happen again. Those sounds won't happen again. That the way that sound destroyed itself, the way it ate itself up, I'm not going to capture that again. So I may as well capture it, and that becomes your body of work.
That's a very, very cool thing to think about. And if you can afford the memory on your phone, just sort of to set it up, and that way, the more that you do it, I guess the less conscious you will be of that video going. Because quite often too, I know that I think, I haven't done a video post for ages. Maybe I better do a little something just to, I don't know. And then you put the phone down and you're constantly like looking at it going, it's recording. It's recording. How do I look? What's the light like? Oh, how does it sound? And then, I think if you're doing it every time, you'd be less conscious of all those factors and it'd just dissolve, and then you'd just like be totally into the instrument and the creation and all that. So yeah, it's a good little tip.
Yeah. Just capture it all, do it, get good at it. And, if you can, if you take that out of it and you get into the zone of, well, I'm just playing and creating, that's really what you want. That's where you want to be and you want to live,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's finish up with a question that I've asked a few other people on the podcast. It's just nice to get a bit of a continual sort of finishing thought. Piece of kit or piece of gear, regardless of value, and it doesn't even have to be a musical thing. It could be anything that has helped your career in some way, or your musical ability, or your outlook on music, or something that has made a profound influence on you as Shannon in the musical form.
Pantheon. Look, I just think it's just the value of staying engaged with the love of music, because essentially that's what we do. We love music. We're fans of music, and it's also like sometimes you need license to really chase the things you love, really learn about the things you love and go hard into it. Like work it out nuts and bolts from a technical point of view. You can do that because once you go through that, you come out the other side better and more equipped. But I guess there's so much music out there all the time. There's just music every day. There's music every second of the day. Find the things you like and just go hard into them, and don't worry about hearing everything because you're never going to hear it all. Find your favourites, and there's mostly books written about the great people we love. And try and make contact with the people you love too, in your scene, and learn from them. I was so lucky to have Chris and his family and Jeff Lang and all these people are mentors, and still I still learn. But dig deep into yourself, dig hard into yourself. At the end of the day, I can still sit down with a guitar in my hands and I still love it like I did when I was 10 years old. That's something that the industry can kind of try to beat out of you, but just don't lose that, because that's really keep the love for playing, keep the love for whatever you do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wise words, my friend.
Yep.
And especially that mentorship thing, I think that's great too, is just having people you can 100% trust with no matter what angle of life you want to communicate with them, be it personal, be it musical, be it whatever. Like everyone needs someone to shoot the breeze with and to get some professional or just personal advice from, or just not even ask for advice, just be around and just get influenced by and supported. Yeah, so that's cool. Yeah. Very nice.
Yeah, and know who's talking shit to you as well. Like I did a music course that was really great for me, but I have these industry days and they bring in the most shit, bitter people in music to sit there and talk. You're talking to all these young music students, and like at times you'd be sitting there going, fucking, why am I doing it? Why am I even going to go off into this thing, but go off into that thing because there's so much life to be had there, and there's so many great experiences that you could have if you just wake up every day and love it and just go. It's not a question for me to love what I do. It's not a question for me to love. Guitar happens to be my thing, you know. Just love that thing and just wake up every day and love it and give it what you have to give it. Some days it's not great, but it doesn't matter. Tomorrow's different.
Yeah, very cool. Well, wise words to leave on there, mate. I reckon we wrap it up for today, and thanks very much for your time and energy and being on the show, and hopefully we can catch up in the flesh before you know it, and share some stories, maybe share some licks, and
that'd be fun
or something. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Jenkin. Yeah.
Right on. Well, thanks, Shannon. Have a great weekend.
Thanks so much, Pete. Great to see you.
Brother. You too,
Thanks
man.
for reaching out.
Pleasure. We'll do it again.
See ya.
Catch you later. Thanks for listening, folks, to another episode of Say It With Guitars. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the podcast, share it around to your mates, leave a good review, and hopefully we'll see you next time.